Brilliant.
Morning, mate.
You're not coming up green when you speak.
Recording.
Good.
Let's make sure.
Turns up sound.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning,
Good morning, Keith.
Morning.
And a special good morning to Will.
Hi, are you
Thank-
okay?
He's
Thank
playing in
you
goal
ever
on my
so
screen.
much.
Morning,
Yeah.
Will.
Morning,
Morning,
Will.
Will.
Welcome.
Morning, Will.
Thanks for doing
Thanks for
this.
having me. Is he the right age for this group?
Far too young.
He's got too much hair.
Well, it's got long enough hair.
Right, we're nearly all there. Tony's just
Could only
Coming
see
up.
your head, Keith.
That's too much.
thank you.
Okay.
Right. So, as I say, good morning to Will. Thank you for coming on. It's we feel honoured that you've let us, well, that you've joined us. So, could we kick off, please, with you telling us a bit about how you started in football, your early life, and how you started in football, please?
No, I wish I knew we were going to kick off.
Well, hi everyone. Thanks for having me. But yeah, well, basically, can you all hear me? Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Just thank you.
Yeah. So I'm from the Cotswolds down south, so up here is quite new to me. So I signed for Swindon. Well, I played a match when I was about 6 years old, and I got scouted when I was then 6. But it's quite funny, really. They actually lost my dad's phone number. So, and obviously back in the day, it wasn't like mobile phones or anything. It was just a home phone. So it was quite hard to get hold of anybody. So I played another match, and they got in contact with me. But I was about 7 years old when I signed for Swindon Town. And then, but when I first signed, they didn't have a proper like youth team set up. So I had to go in. I was the only one there at that age, and I played with people like 3 to 4 years above my age. But I was quite tall, so it didn't really matter too much to me. But yeah, I was obviously, it was quite nice. Obviously, I was good enough to play for the older age groups. They saw that in me like early on. So yeah, I did that, and I played for Swindon since I was obviously 7, and then went all the way up through my school years. And as soon as I left school, I signed a 2-year scholarship with Swindon as well. And then I was fortunate enough to sign a 2-year professional contract, which I went on to do. But in my second year, I had a manager, you may know him, Paolo Di Canio. He was a bit of a madman, so and the club was going in a difficult direction. So he sort of tried to get rid of a few of the younger people, myself included. So I went out on loan to Hereford, and then spent 18 months there. And then moved on I had a brief spell at Newport, and then got promoted from the National League to League 2 with them. And then when did I go from there? Well, I went to Eastleigh in the Conference South. So I dropped down a league. It was one of those I was a little bit hesitant to do, because obviously if you keep dropping down, you don't really want to do that as a player. You want to play as high as you can. So I ended up dropping down another league, but we got promoted that year, which was unbelievable, really. Like, it was a really good group of lads. It was a really good squad. It was a really good atmosphere there. It was probably one of the best times I had as a footballer. So we got promoted, and I spent 2 more years there. Then I went on to Aldershot for 2 years. and then I came up to Chesterfield. So I've been here now. This should have been finishing my second season. Hasn't really planned out as I would have liked it to, but it's one of those. It's football at the end of the day. So there's so many ups and downs. But yeah, so I'm here now. But I'm enjoying life up here. Got a lovely life up here now. So I'm really enjoying it. So hopefully the football can turn around, because off the field it's a nice place to be.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Can I just mention, I've muted everybody except myself and Chris, who
Okay.
might be some questions. If anybody wants to ask a question, can you put your hand up like that, please? And I'll get to you. Right. So, Lol, you've got a question to start off with. So,
Well, now if you cast your mind back to the 6th of March 2012, when you played for Hereford, you scored the fastest goal in their history away to Macclesfield at Moss Rose, a 25-yarder inside 12 seconds.
Mm.
Now, that's unusual for a centre-back to score as quickly as that. What do you remember about that goal?
Well, it's funny, really, because like you said, I did sign as a centre back, but the manager saw me as more of a holding midfielder. So obviously, I had the defensive mind, but I could score goals as well. Like I do it in training all the time. To be honest, I think you ask everybody. I think everybody loves scoring goals, so you always have that sort of mindset. But it was really bizarre. It kicked off. It went to our left back. He basically the traditional kick it forward. Our striker challenged for it with their centre half. It just so happened to take one bounce in front of me, and I just hit it, and that was it. Really, I didn't really think too much of it. It sort of came, like you said, within 12 seconds. It was wasn't too much to think about, but yeah, we were struggling at the time, so it was a good start for us to go away there, and we ended up drawing the game, but I actually scored. I ended up scoring twice in that game.
Oh. Will, it's Chris. Good morning,
Hi,
Will.
Chris.
Morning, Will. I was just going to ask you, I was going to try and give you the credit because you did score another one. And you beat
I
me
did. Yeah.
Well
Yeah.
done.
I think that's the closest I've ever come to getting a hat trick. So, so it's close.
That was one of the fastest goals ever scored for that club.
Yeah, I think it is the record.
Very unusual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well done, mate.
yeah. Well, I actually met the chairman of Hereford United on a holiday. He's
Okay.
quite a nice guy, but I don't know, what was your experience of him?
Well, to be honest, I was quite young at the time. I think I was only 20, 21. So I didn't really, now I'm older. I sort of get, and obviously I'm the captain at Chesterfield, so I get more involved with that sort of side of it. But when I was that age, it was just basically go in, speak to the manager, speak to my friends, play a bit of football, and sort of have a laugh, really. But now, so I didn't really have too many situations where I could actually have a conversation with him, to be honest with you. So
Okay.
I think he was quite a shy person. I don't think he quite wanted to get too much involved with the lads because when I was there, I don't know if it might be the same chairman or not, but the club actually was going bust. So he was threatening to pay players and stuff. So I think he sort of tried to keep himself on the down low. So I didn't really have too many encounters with him.
Right, okay. Chris, have you got... John, you've got a question.
No, I just wondered, you mentioned one barking mad manager, Paolo Di Canio, brilliant footballer, but anyway, less said about that the better. To another football genius, John Sheridan. What do you reckon to his management style?
Well, it's hard to say, to be honest, because obviously the first season he came halfway through the season, and basically we had a bit of a rough patch start of the season. He basically just said, lads, just play, do what you want, play, have fun. Just, this is the team, there you go. And it was brilliant. And we did well. It sort of just happened to click. But we came back in pre-season and he just, I don't know, he just completely switched. He tried to do things that he didn't normally do with tactics and stuff. And it didn't seem like his style. And then obviously we had a bit of a bad run again. And he just he got too caught up. I think it felt like he got too caught up with like his emotions rather than focusing on the football. But to be honest, I really enjoyed him as a manager. His training sessions were fine. I enjoyed those. He's a very hard person to talk to, but I got on really well with him, to be honest. He obviously, he gave me another contract as well. So, and I played every game under him, and he made me captain. So he obviously saw something in me, but so it was a bit unfortunate and it didn't really work out. But so I did quite enjoy it.
Yeah, great players don't always make great managers, do they?
No.
Yeah, I've got a lot of respect for Sheridan, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, Ian, you got a question.
Yes. Interested that you mentioned the Cotswolds. I'm actually living in Oxford at the moment, but that's by the by. Of all the managers around today, and there are some real characters, who do you think you would like to play for, who would bring your game on for you?
Well, obviously the top one you're looking at, obviously Pep Guardiola, aren't you? The way he is, and Klopp, the way they are, their enthusiasm for the game. I think it thrives on the players. Like, you can see it on the pitch. Their energy, they're willing to just want to do well for the manager. Just, it shows. And obviously, I think there's no denying that Liverpool are going to win the league by some margin. And I think Klopp is obviously he's the main man behind it all. And it just, for me, it just shows that he's everything that he's doing off the field is right. And for me, it would I think that would be him and Pep Guardiola. Obviously, they're, for me at the moment, they're the top of the game, and there's no beating them really.
Have you worked for guys who you think are better as coaches than they are as managers, who actually brought your game on, who are a bit more empathetic to the way you want to play, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I left school, when I did my 2-year scholarship at Swindon, I don't know if you remember him. He played for Swindon. He's a Welsh left back, Paul Bowden. You might ring a bell. But he's like his son plays now for Preston, Billy Bowden. And I went to school with Bill and stuff. So Paul's a very good family friend of mine. But him as a coach and a manager was spot on for me, because he understood me as a person, because I'm quite a laid back person off the pitch. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm quite tall, bit lollopy and stuff. So people sort of get the wrong impression of me sometimes. I don't really bother too much, but as soon as I get on the pitch, I'm a different person. I think, Chris, you can sort of agree with me there. You've probably seen things that I wouldn't normally see in the street. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, so I think there's certain people like Paul Bowden who he knew me as a person, and he brought the best out of me on both sides. And there's another person, you may remember him as well, Gary Waddock, Irish international. I think he played for QPR, things like that. So, but he was my manager at Aldershot for 2 years, and his coaching style, he just loved football, and everything about training sessions and everything was just pure football. Getting your foot on the ball, basically, nothing else. Just passing and enjoying it, and it worked for us, and it made me a 10 times better player. And I felt so much more comfortable with myself on the pitch because of his style.
So is it more motivational than about technique?
I think so. Every player is different. So and I think, I thrive off somebody who is quite passionate. And like my current manager at the moment, John Pemberton, he's very passionate about football, and he's very enthusiastic, and he's very his the detail that he puts in to training and like every day and into matches is unbelievable. And I like that. Like I've got a bit of OCD as well myself, so for me to have somebody like that is really, it works really well for me, because we watch like lots of videos, we watch games back, we like a debrief on a Tuesday if the game's on a Saturday. We'll sit down for an hour and a half or something and go over the game, like find the details. Even if we win, lose or draw, we go over it, because obviously there's always room for improvement, isn't there?
Yes.
Right,
Well, Chris,
Chris, yeah.
if anyone wants to know how determined Mr. Evans is, I did see a home defeat, okay, of Chesterfield, and Will, as captain, couldn't get off the field, basically. He acknowledged every part of the ground, and it meant a lot. You could see it. So anyone who doubts his on-off style on the field or off the field, I've seen both. And this is a very determined man, and loves his club.
Yeah. Okay, Dave. Dave, you've got a question. Have you got? Hang on. If I can unmute him. No, I can't. Chris, you've got a particular game that you wanted to ask Will about.
Well, he knows what's coming. But for anyone who hasn't read about Will and his Chesterfield exploits, I've only got to show Will this and the rest of the group to remind. Can everyone see that? This is Mr. Evans as a goalkeeper. And that's unusual, Will, isn't it?
Yeah, slightly.
Slightly. In the beginning of 2019, Will played against Ebbsfleet at Chesterfield, and the score at one stage was 0-3 to Ebbsfleet, and it was live on local radio, and I was at home and I was listening to it, and I was at 0-3. I was really disappointed, obviously, for Chesterfield and Will. Then they started to get back in the game. So I want to ask Will, what happened at 2-3 down? How late in the game did things start happening at 2-3 down?
I think it was the 93rd minute. Well, I'm centre half, and it was open play. And our left-sided player got the ball, and I think I got the ball originally, and I passed it round, and we got out to the left-hand side. I just carried on running towards the box, and he chipped into the box, and I ended up scoring in the 93rd minute to make it 3-3, being 3-0 down, like Chris said, at half time. So to get back 3-3 in the 93rd minute was unbelievable. So
I think in the 95th minute, something extraordinary started happening. Can you give the guys an idea of what happened in the 95th minute, having just equalised?
So obviously there, so we obviously equalised, and the crowd was coming onto the pitch and that, so it was unbelievable scenes. And obviously we took kick off, and whatever happened, and it went into our box, and the keeper caught it very easily. Weren't threatened at all. And then something happened between the striker and the goalkeeper. I didn't quite see what happened. I think he just stepped in front of him. But I think with the emotions of the game, the goalkeeper sort of saw red, and he ended up throwing the ball at the back of the player's head. So he got sent off, and gave away a penalty in the 95th minute. So to be honest, I didn't even realise if we'd made all the 3 subs or anything. I just sort of said to the keeper, Callum, at the time, I said, "Oh, just give me your gloves. I'll go in goal." And so I took his gloves off, and then he walked off, put his gloves on, and I'm stood there in the middle of the goal with the gloves on, still in my normal blue shirt. And then next minute they're saying, "No, you've got to wear a goalkeeper shirt. You've got to wear a goalkeeper shirt." And I'm like, "All right, okay." So the kit man's come over, give me a shirt, and I try to put the shirt on, and I can't put the shirt on. It's like stuck like down just underneath my tummy, and I'm stood in the middle of the goal thinking, "What's going on?" I just next minute. So yeah, I'm stood here in front of this guy trying to take a penalty, and he kept looking at me, and I was trying to look at him. I'm thinking, "Well, what am I going to do?" Because I've never tried to save a penalty before. In training, maybe it was a bit of fun, but never in a serious situation. And he kept looking down to my bottom right, and I thought, "Is he trying to trick me?" As in, like, "Oh, I'm going to go there, but really I'm going to go the other way." And I thought, "Oh, I think he's trying to double bluff me." So I dived to my right, and he placed it to my right, and yeah, so I saved the penalty. And then that was it. The game was over. That was the dying seconds. So we managed to hold on to the draw, and yeah, I saved the penalty in the 96th minute or something. So it was a very strange game, but it was one I don't think I'll ever forget.
I would probably suggest it might never have happened before.
No, I don't think. Not in the way I've tried to Google other things, see if an outfield player has ever. I think someone, can't remember who it was. I think there's one or two other players have saved the penalty, but I don't think, not quite in the way it rolled out for us. Do you know what I mean? 3-0 down at half time. Was battling for relegation. Come back to 3-0 in the 95th minute. 96th minute, we give away a penalty. Do you know what I mean? We've scrambled a point, and then to lose that point in the 96th minute, it would have been heartbreaking. So yeah, the luck was on with us.
Well, what was it like in the dressing room after the game when you eventually got off the field? What was the sort of feelings? What happened?
Everyone was just, I think it was just like a big, like, sigh of relief sort of thing. And everyone was just, I think that sort of kick-started our season from that point to, because we ended up, I think we ended up being, 8 points off playoff from relegation. I think we were in the relegation zone then. And that point took us out of the relegation zone. And then we ended up, I think we made, from back that point to the end of the season, I think we had something like, we only lost 4 games and kept like 11 clean sheets. It was just like, it completely changed our season, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Got a question from Steve in a minute. Hang on, Steve. Well, yeah.
Hi.
Okay, Steve.
Hi, Will.
Yeah.
Going back to you saying about yourself being laid back off the pitch, but different on the pitch, what's your style of captaincy?
I think, yes, it's quite a difficult one, really, because like off the pitch, off the pitch, around the ground, I mean, I'm just normal, really, just talk to people on a day-to-day basis. But I feel like now,
Do you act as a mentor to some of them?
Yeah, I think because we've got quite a young group. We've got quite a lot of young players like coming through. They've played a lot of Football League games, to be fair to them, but it's still quite young and they're still developing. So, and obviously I've been there, and I've been in that situation where club, because we have been struggling the last 2 years since I've been there. And I think for a club like there's a couple of lads that have been there since 3 or 4 years, and they've had back-to-back relegations, and then they've had the last 2 years of scrapping for relegation as well. and it's not been a nice place, I don't think, around Chesterfield for the last 4 or 5 years, to be honest. So I think some of them are still carrying that on. So I think I've got to, like you said, I'm trying to be a bit of a mentor for them, because I've had promotions and I've had relegations. So I think you just got to learn how to deal with that off the pitch during training and stuff, and then it will show on the pitch that you can overcome that, because the crowd can be very hard to please as well at times. So yeah, I think during training I'm quite fair, but I feel like sometimes I am quite hard on them, quite moany. I do like a moan, I have to say, during training. But even during games, like I am quite loud, because I'm 6'4", I've got quite a deep voice. So I think people, if I do shout, it does get the message across quite quickly. So it's quite good in that aspect. But I didn't ever want to be the captain that's always on your back. I like to be the positive one as well. I like to, if someone does do something right, I like to tell them as well. I don't want to always just bring up the negative, because I don't think that's healthy for anybody. Like, I don't like that. Like, if I do something well, like even, a goal line clearance or a block or something like that, a good header, won a challenge, like, I think, you need to be praised on that as well. So, like, I think we scored a goal once, and I think our right back basically made a last-ditch tackle, come out with the ball, played it down the line, and the striker has gone through and scored. But without him doing that, which I ran straight over to him and said, well, that goal has basically come from you. So I try and be sort of both sides of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. When you were talking about managers, and if some of the people who are listening today will forgive me, there is a local manager that's forging quite a reputation for himself. What do you think about, how would you fare under Chris Wilder?
Well, we played him in pre-season last season. We played him pre-season, and he seemed I've never come across him before, to be honest with you. I've only I've never played against one of his teams, and apart from this season. And obviously he was a Premier League club, and I think they were all on a high. So he seemed in good spirits. He seemed like a nice, people that I've spoke to, he seems like he knows what he's on about, and he gets the best out of players. Because, if you look at Sheffield United, they haven't gone and spent millions and millions and millions like Aston Villa, for instance. But they've done unbelievably well, and full credit to Chris Wilder, to be honest, and the players, because I think, like I was saying about Klopp and Pep Guardiola, their enthusiasm, their passion for football shows on the pitch with the players. And I believe what I've seen of him as well, like, he loves that football club and he loves his players, and it shows. And yeah, I think it would be a privilege to play under him, because everyone that I've seen or have spoken about, and they've always spoke highly of him. So I can imagine he's a very good coach and a very good manager.
Yeah. Okay.
Will, sorry,
Chris,
Kate.
Yeah.
Will underplays the fact that at the end of the 2019 season, I believe it was the season he saved the penalty, played 45 games, he was Player of the Year. And didn't you go to a big function, Will, to get your accolade as Chesterfield Player of the Year? Didn't you sit near Wilder and United, who were also up for some awards? Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, so we went to the end of season awards. I think they do it as Rotherham, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United, Chesterfield, and a few of the women team, ladies teams as well. So I think I don't know what it's called, Chris. Can you remember what the
I think
awards
it was the Sheffield newspapers Player of the Year.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so I've obviously gone to that do, and our table's right next to Sheffield United, and Well, I can tell you, I'd rather be on that table because it looked like they were having a very good time. And yeah, there was a few bottles of beer being drunk. But yeah, no, it looked like even then. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I think they had 3 players: Billy Sharp, the goalkeeper from Man United, what's his
Henderson.
name? Yeah, and there was another one I can't remember. I think is it Basham? Basham.
Fashion, yeah.
I think it was him anyway. I can't quite remember, but them 3 were there, and obviously coaching staff and that, and they all looked like they were having a very good time. And he spoke very well on the stage as well. Funny, quite witty with his jokes as well. So yeah, it did look like he had fun with his players as well, and all his staff, and everyone was just having. It was a nice environment to be around. Obviously, I know they just won the championship or whatever. They're in the Premier League, so there's no reason not to be. But even so, it did look like a good place to be.
Well, for one, Chris Wilder wouldn't be the kind of person that would, because Chesterfield were National League, he's managed a lot of his time in the National League, so he's not.
He knows.
He knows what's what.
Yeah, and I think, well, even like you say, like he's managed at this lower level. So I think I think when you do manage at this lower level, you've got to interact more with your players, because obviously the ability's not always there. They've got it, but it's not always the way. They don't always show it on a regular basis. I think that's why that's like a saying that we say, like, simple and effective. And the best players just do the simple things, but they do the simple things well, and they do it on a consistent basis. Like, I think when you get lower down, I think you do there's obviously the technical players and stuff that you can still see they've got something, but they just don't do it on a consistent basis. And they try and do maybe too much at times, or they just don't and do the simple things enough. And like when we played Sheffield United, literally, I don't think one of them passed it over 10 yards. And you just think, well, it's just a simple pass, but they're just doing it. And they've always got 3 or 4 options on. Everyone's just on the same wavelength. Everyone's thinking on the same wavelength. It is as a player, when you play against the higher leagues, I'm from the lower leagues. So when you play someone in the Premier League or Championship or whatever, and you do appreciate the way they are, and you can see why they are where they are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. We're now just over a minute left on this session. So shall we call it a day on this one and go to the second session? Is that okay, everybody? All right.
Yeah.
So
We'll all right with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, I'll end it. Go and get a drink, everybody. All right.
Okay.